All right, here's how it was going to prison in 2001. You got off the Grey Ghost, the big gray bus that brings you to prison. You lost your case, whatever happened in county jail. Now you're going to the real deal. You get there, they strip you of your jumpsuit. And then they make all of you sit in a room, butt naked. They strip you all the clothes, first of all, to dehumanize you. And you're sitting there for probably an hour or two waiting for your name to be called. And then you're no longer going to be a name, you're going to be a number. That's my number. That's my barcode. And I'm only in there for marijuana. Yeah, and so what do? You talk to the guy next to you, his dick's hanging out, your dick's hanging out, and you try to make fun of the situation, but okay, I'm here. And then they give you new clothes and they give you a bedroll. And then you're going to go find your distribution center. We're in Shelton, Washington. Shelton, Washington's a distribution center depending on what level of crime you did, what institution you're going to go to. And so you got your bedroll and you're going to walk to your first initial cell. And what are the boys doing there? Because we're bored. We're locked in cells 23 hours a day in our units. And they start screaming, "Bring me the boy. I want the boy. I'll take his case." And other people are going, "I don't want to go to Walla Walla. Oh my God, protect me. I don't want to go to Walla Walla." And all these cells are making these noise because, the new recruits for prison only come in on certain days. And they just find it fucking hilarious. And here you are, you've never went to prison, and you've got your bedroll and you're going on this cell and they're chattering. 3 rows of just cell blocks, just like you see in the movie. 3 fucking tears, and you're walking and you get to your cell. And then, you're in your cell with your cellmates, and you're in there for 23 hours a day. There it was so bad that I had to lay on the phone until you get a little bit of time. I think it probably took me like 3-4 days. I had to sleep by the fucking toilet on the ground. They were packed in. There was no more like you get a bunk. No, here's a little mat. You sleep on the fucking floor right next to the toilet. So if your cellie had to get up in the middle of the night, take a piss, you got a bladder problem, yeah, you got to get up a whole bunch of times while he fucking pisses and moves and this, that, the other thing. You only get out of there for a short amount of time for the yard and to go get your fucking food. Then you move out of there and you move to R4 and 5. R1, 2, and 3, you couldn't smoke. R4 and 5 and 6, you could smoke. And that was like, wow. That was a totally different thing. Now, R4 and 5 was a little different. 1, 2, and 3 is more like instant processing. 4 and 5 is like the secondary processing. There, I was fortunate enough when I got to R4, 5, and 6 from 1, 2, and 3. I got to meet a guy that was transferring from life in Walla Walla up to Column Bay. Young man got locked up at like 18, murder, this, that, will never see the light of day. And if you know anything back then, they said, don't work out with those boys. They will fuck you up and rape you, but I'm not a bitch. You know what I mean? So I worked out with the guy. He broke me. I couldn't even have defended myself if he didn't want to just decide to take my kicks, but he's a real cool guy. Put a lot of perspective that changed me in life. Helped me realize I need to calm down a little bit because before I went to prison for pot, I was wilding out a lot. And it was so bad that I could barely walk to chow. Man, he had mattresses on my back. So we were doing squats. I was in his workout routine with him, and I couldn't even keep up. I mean, he worked out after me, but he broke me down so bad. I'm selling weed on the street, so I'm soft and fat. But good guy, bad situation. And he's never going to see the light of day. And I wish I remembered his name. I couldn't. Anyhow, you get out of R4 and 5, they're going to transfer you to your facility, wherever it is, whatever your level of custody. Did you violently hurt somebody? You might go to Walla Walla, Column Bay. You might go to a medium. I went to a work camp. I'm in there for marijuana, so I'm doing like under 5 years. I get to a work camp. I show up at Cedar Creek Correctional Facility. And what was that like? Mixed feelings, but it was all right. They worked us to the bone. But when you got out of work, you had some life. You could take computer classes. You could get college credits. I actually recorded an album in there. They had a small 4-track studio. I don't have the cassette tape anymore, but I recorded an album that was pretty freaking wow. It was a glorious moment because I did hear some people on the tiers playing my song. You know what I mean? Like we would be able to have cassette tapes, and people would record over the cassette tape, and some people actually put my music over whatever album they had coming in, and so I could hear my music. We had 3 tier. We had 3 different. We had A, B, and C in my unit, and there was another unit, and there was moments while I was in prison while other people were playing my music. So that was pretty fucking cool. But you could also work out. I fucked up my left shoulder, fucking trying to work out with the big boys, which were really cool guys, but I didn't have enough weightlifting experience, and these fucking grown killers, I'm trying to seem cooler than I am as a young man with them, and I fucked up my left shoulder. Anyhow, so I worked in DNR, Department of Natural Resources. That was the main job of there, and they paid us 42 cents an hour, and it was terrible hard work. Either you were trimming trees, you had a chainsaw, so we're just like bad people, but they give us chainsaws. They take us somewhere and they give us chainsaws, and we're trimming out the forest. So when you plant a bunch of trees, sometimes the forest gets a little bit bigger, and you got to thin them out so that tree can grow bigger. Anyhow, so some of the year we were thinning out forests with chainsaws, just making sure the trees would get to the right size without clogging up and getting thinner. And then other times we were planting trees. I probably planted 30,000 trees. You know, I mean, I'm in prison for selling trees, but I probably planted 3,000 trees. What was that like? Well, you'd get out of this red crummy van, and it was like a box truck, but it had room in the back, almost like school buses, but it was also secure. And you would get out there with like paper bags. If you ever were older, in my generation, you delivered paper bags. You had the bag that was on the front and the back. Well, imagine that it's got 300 trees in it. You start your day with like 300 baby trees. And 300 baby trees is pretty freaking heavy. That bag is bulk, but it's not ridiculous, but you're climbing up things, and every so many feet like this, we'd hit an area that was just clear cut. You know, the area was cut. They're building lumber that built your houses, and it's cut, but it's not cleared. So we got 300 trees, and every so many feet in a line, I got a guy over here that's this many feet away from me, this many feet, and we're just digging holes, planting trees, digging holes, planting trees. Yeah, I probably 300 trees a day is about what you did. You might have done a little bit more. Nobody counted the trees when they put it in your bag, but you probably had 300 trees a day. 100 days, 30,000 fucking trees. Well, one day, and this will get a little negative side of the story, we were out there in Western Washington. It doesn't snow a lot, but it snowed, and it snowed pretty dang good. A fluffy snow where you couldn't see where you're stepping. The problem with planting trees while you were doing this is it's clear cut, so you might think you're stepping on something and nothing's there, which might not be a big deal, but put 300 trees on your back and it's snowing, so you think you're stepping on solid ground, but it's not. And it buckled my fucking knee. And so I was done. I went back, and when I couldn't go out for the next 10 days, I said, no, I'm not going out. I don't care. My knee's purplish yellow. They took 10 days of my good time. And let's not just get negative about prison, because I did cool things in prison. You know what I mean? We had a whole underground economy. I'll get into some of that. But yeah, it snowed that day. Usually you can watch where you walk, and you had to watch where you walk because it was clear cut. Like, part of the tree they didn't take out. They took the lumber, but all the branches and that. So you watch where you walk, but with the snow, you couldn't see it. And I twisted my knee bad. And they ended up taking time. And they're like, they like I was not doing what I was supposed to for 40 cents an hour. So yeah, I planted trees. Sometimes we would go clean campgrounds. Some of the nice trails you walk, we would go out there and we would build bridges for those trails. We would cut the trail, we'd keep them open. We'd be out there with the chainsaw, making sure if something fell through, we got it out there. We maintained, the trail, the beautiful trails in Western Washington. We maintained some of those, cleaned up campgrounds. One day we were at a campground and somebody left like 3/4 of a bottle of vodka. And me and my buddy, we fucking downed that and got hammered. And another time, there was another girl that was going to give me a little bit of action. And she was so ugly. And I hadn't been in prison that long. But she knew we were from prison and she was down for the business. She was just like going to give me. And I told them, and the guys were trying to, I said, dude, look, like, I ain't been in prison that long, but some of the guys on my thing have been in prison for 10 years, and a woman's just a woman. And nothing negative about that, but that really, like, happened. Like, she knew what we were, because we're in, like, Little Rock, Washington, or Little Creek, whatever it was, Washington. There's not a lot of people, but she knew what it was, and she was down for the cause, but I was just like, no, I ain't been locked up that long. No fucking way. And they were like, you motherfucker. And sometimes we'd clean the campgrounds and we'd find some things. One time, another crew, not my crew, they stumbled on a weed growing patch. Like they were up in these DNR hills and somebody was growing outdoor weed. And these guys just snatched it all. And what did they do? They got away. A lot of them got away with bringing it into the camp. So that, like they don't search you too much because you go out every day and they're not expecting you to find a weed. It's just it's a process of coming back. It's not like this big search. It's just you're back. We put in a whole hard day. But these idiots, they found this weed, and it was premature weed, but it was still fucking weed. What did they do? They put it in the washer and dryer, so the whole tier smelled like it. Everybody's shit got raided. It was terrible. But they came upon a weed crop, and they just, instead of like putting it on top of the roof and letting the sun dry it and all the normal things you would do if you're prison educated, some assholes came back with, massive amount of, not bud ready, but it gets you high. And in prison, you'll pay this for a pinner. Good enough weed. You would have been high. You ain't smoked weed for years. You're going to be high as shit. They put it in the gosh dang dryer. So the whole fucking prison was on lockdown after that because they stumbled upon this whole weed crop. Anyhow, so yeah, DNR, you did find some weird stuff. Campgrounds, like we downed that bottle of vodka, and if you had been drunk in that amount of time, it was pretty crazy. We'd also go out there and fight fires. When we had fought fires, I think they paid us $1 or $2 an hour. So I fought 2 fires during that time. I went out to Tenasket and a thing that begins with O. I know the place. Eastern Washington, where the fire goes rapidly, and we were cutting line for 14 hours a day. You could literally, in Eastern Washington in the summer where it gets dry, you see that fire moving, and we're just cutting line, and you can see the fire coming over the fucking ridge. It was crazy. But the community, wonderful. We were eating ribs and steaks. People were hugging us. They didn't know what we were in for. I'm only in for pot, but the community's like, thank you so much. We're like saving houses. I thought because I was working so hard in DNR, I came off the street fat from selling weed and this and that. And then, I just thinned out so quickly. I thought I'd be able to actually put on some protein and get a little bit more muscle in the gym I was doing every day. I actually came out of fighting fires, even though we were eating buffet style. And when you haven't ate that in forever, we're literally eating steaks and ribs, and we're used to just prison trays. But when you're doing DNR, they fed you double portions. They had to, because you use so much calories. You're not planting 300 trees and working chainsaws. When you're on DNR, they fed you double. Every peanut butter had pancakes, and if you didn't do it, you just got too thin too quick. And eventually I got off DNR, and I think the people said Mark's getting too thin because I was just getting too thin. Like, I was getting too thin from fighting forest fires and planting trees. All my street weight of living the good life on marijuana was fucking gone. And then they switched me to Department of Transportation. And Department of Transportation was cool. We went and cleaned out some fucking different things. We'd plant bamboo on things that had roadside where roads mudslides and shit, plant bamboo and this and that, but it was nothing like DNR. It was like cakewalk. And then sometimes we just clean the side of the road, and they found dope on the side of the road. Like, I don't know if a cop was on my crew. They literally found methamphetamines, like a bag of it, like somebody threw it out. But, and I was like, I'm not getting high. Why the fuck would I want to be high and awake more around you people? Like, that's not even fun. And so, I just got some kickback from that. But yeah, no, like somebody threw dope on a police chase, and they found this fucking bag with dope on my crew. But mostly DNR was pretty cool. The hardest thing about our Department of Transportation, the hardest part was I live in Bremerton, and Port Orchard. There's a mudslide right around Port Orchard. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 8-9 months away from going home. Here's my hometown. It's Bremerton. You can see like the Nimitz, the shipyard, all the Navy boats, and I just live fucking right there. I'm on the other side of the water. I know so many people here. There was people fucking making noises driving by. I could have escaped and just got home, but then you're gonna get all this time. And I'm just having to sit there and look at my hometown over the water while I'm working, knowing I got this time. That was the hardest day I ever had in prison, because I was so close to just being free, to my area of network. Other than that, I'm a couple hours away. I could probably meet somebody right on that highway that knows me, and let's go, and I'm out of here. And, maybe it takes a month to find me. Maybe they pick me up 2 days, but we're fucking partying in that time, but I didn't do it anyhow. So, yeah, DNR, or DOT, they paid us 85 cents an hour. It's cool. Less harder work than, but I got too thin. I just got too fucking thin on DNR. Doing that lumberjack shit, they just couldn't feed me enough. My body just went through the calories or something. I don't know, man. And then they moved me over. Plus, I screwed up my knee on the snow day. But yeah, I got a couple college classes in there. I got a GED in prison. I got a GED in Pierce College, because I got kicked out of high school a lot of times, and probably 17 times. I got a GED in prison. I took some college courses that I had, like building maintenance, this for jobs outside. That's when you got off of work, you could take these things that would better your future, that would help you when you got out. And I got a bunch of those courses. Plus, I recorded an album. Plus, I weightlifted. Played on the basketball team. And then I ran Pinochle for a while. For the first, probably, like, I was a spades player. We always played spades. But this Pinochle, man, they were running 3-2-1 Pinochle, call it racehorse. And that's way more elevated than spades. And I had the first month I donated, and then I just started winning. Probably, that was probably about 10, 12 months later. The Pinochle, to keep gambling honest, things that happen in county jail don't happen in prison. Like, it's just honest. And so to keep the money straight in prison, and to keep the economy right, the money changed hands, and I keep the logbook of all the debts and all that. And if you have the logbook that month, you've got more of a risk, so it's more money, and you get a little bit off what everybody owes and gambling and shit. But yeah. No, Pinochle, I ran Pinochle for a long time. I got really fucking great at racehorse Pinochle. Just peeling people's fucking dens. Boom, run them into them, man. Just extra money. So yeah, I'd play a lot of, well, I wouldn't say I'd be up there recording music and doing that stuff when I can. But you still got a lot of days. And I'd be playing Pinochle. What else was going on at that time? This was 2001 to 2003. 50 Cent hit the scene. See You a Wankster. That album, that was on my tier. I lived on C tier, and they used to play BET on Cut back then. They'd have Joker the Bail Bondsman. 50 was on there, and this. I was real cool with a lot of the Mexicans over there. They was on A tier. They was watching that El Caliente and all these. They had them hot girls on there all the time. But we had so much money from gambling that you was definitely cool. A lot of my Mexican partners, they worked in the kitchen and they'd be smuggling back onions and this and that, and you know, we're making the homemade spread burritos. A lot of times we don't even go up to Chow because Chow is bullshit. And so we'd just be making these burrito spreads. So we had the hookups over there. Sometimes I'd go hang out with them and watch El Caliente and these hot Latino babes and shit. And we just, you know, this whole economy, yeah, it was all right. Overall, prison was all right. I came out of prison with a better perspective. If I didn't go to prison, I might be doing life in prison. So it did calm me down a lot. I did get to meet some people that, even when I was in the camp, you'll get people in the camp that have been down for 15, 20 years. That's just at the end of their sentence, they got the opportunity to go to camp. But they're long-time people. They weren't doing life, but they've already done 15 years. And we'd see people from camp that would come right back. You know what I mean? Like, give it 6 months, we see the same idiot here. But things that went down in county jail, like people be coming off drugs, that'd be wild. In prison, you know, people give you their space. There's an economy. You're not going to fuck this guy on money because no one's ever going to fuck with you again, or we're just going to handle our own shit. There's just ways of doing things. They dropped a tree on a guy one time that they found out he had some funny beef. You know, he was in there for that funny shit, and they dropped a tree on him because we had chainsaws and a lot of things like that. So it was interesting. Overall, I don't agree with me being locked in prison for pot, but I learned a lot. A beautiful time. I remember time ticking. I used to buy Seroquel. We used to call it sleeping with Sarah. You know, if I didn't have the visit I knew on that weekend, there were some people that just be on those pills big time. And I didn't fuck with a lot of them, but I would fuck with some Seroquel. And I'd get a Seroquel pill and I'd just sleep through the weekend if nothing was going on. Because sometimes, like on Sunday, they weren't going to bring you up to all these other activities. I just sleep. I get a Seroquel, you know, sure, he put it in his mouth, opened his tongue, but then I just get it back, or I take 2 or 3 of them. Like, that's what we call getting high halftime. So other people did drugs. We used to bring weed. I had a corner facility, and you could just throw weed over there. And you would have to cut out your window. You had to have a screen on your window. You have to cut out your window. And I had a corner cell, and so we'd cut out the window. We'd go out there, get the weed or whatever, the coke, whatever it was. I didn't do any of the hard drugs, but anytime our unit, our 4 block was used, I got paid. And then, well, they know you cut your window, so somebody else would get in trouble. You know, there's a whole prison economy, so you'd have to pay the guy to switch your screen window with some other screen window to keep the drama, because there's a guy who does all that, and he would just take your window and put it over there, and it's fucking whole thing. There was one time it was Thanksgiving, and we just got a fresh fucking big bag of weed. One of the guys was locked up, and he was from around that area, so he had friends, and it wasn't nothing for them to throw over a quarter pound of fucking killer green. And to us, you know, you sell little pinners and it's a lot. Now, I didn't get into the drug distribution. I was into other things like the gambling. I was into gambling, and I mean, yeah, I got paid off everything that came through in my little section and shit. So we had some weed come through there, and to celebrate it's Thanksgiving, man, and we smoked a fucking full blunt. I was so high. And I ain't smoked like that since I was on the streets, and I smoked weed all the time. I got too paranoid, man. I left my Thanksgiving tray and went back. You know what I mean? I gave my Thanksgiving tray. I thought everybody was looking at me. That whatever he brought in was that wow. And if you ain't smoked for a year, and it's Thanksgiving, and it was a decent tray. You know what I mean? I probably had like 3 bites, and I said, just take this. So I just felt like everybody was staring at me and shit. Just went back to my room, and we used to have so much store that you'd have to pay other people to store your store because you could only have so much of this. We had East Bay catalogs. When you start having all this money, I could spend my whole store buying shoes. Not that it's really cool. I'd order cassettes and shoes. I didn't have to buy any food because my food and my cigarettes were coming from gambling debts. So my paycheck could just go to East Bay Catalog and buy shoes or, cassettes. And yeah, so it wasn't the worst thing. I came out of there a better person, and I did I did a good amount of time without doing anything naughty after I got out of there. And then, the economy collapsed and I got into a little bit of funny stuff. And then that's what led us into kind of this situation. But yeah, weed used to be worth more than gold. And I was a young kid that seen the opportunity and I took it.